Hi everyone, welcome to week 10. We're doing all of chapter 20 this week because it's relatively short. We look at irregular verbs and a quick look at objective infinitives, though as I'll explain, it's just more a new term than anything more than that. It's a pretty similar use of what we already know. Alright, so the main irregular verbs are listed here. Alright, essentially it's wolo, nolo, and malo. All right, and really they're just irregular in the present tense, as well as the infinitives. This kind of screen or this shot from your textbook kind of shows you the irregular form. So you can see kind of the present tenses here. These are the infinitives. All right, those are irregular. The imperatives here for nolo, and we'll talk about those more later, irregular. And the participles are pretty regular. All right. All the other tenses, and we'll look at them in future slides, are pretty straightforward. If nothing else, they use the same kind of formation, basic formation that you're used to. All right. So here's the present tense of all of them. Again, you just have to kind of memorize these, though as you can see, they sort of form a pattern. And nolo, so wolo is kind of the base verb. Nolo is simply known wolo put together, and if you say that fast enough, you see that a lot of those contract, and that's also why in the present tense you have some forms that are those contracted forms like nolo and nolumus and nolunt, and other forms that are not contracted like non vis and non volt and non voltus. And then malo is also a compound. It is magus wolo. Magus means more, to want more, meaning to prefer. And again, same thing, you say it fast enough, they contract, and that's where all those forms come from. So these are the present tense forms, and they're really the irregular forms that need to be memorized. All right, here's the imperfect. You can see that it's a pretty basic formation, just a stem and that bombas bot that we know for the imperfect, and that's the case for all of them. And here's the future, and it is roughly a third conjugation future with that A and then E signifying the future. But again, they're all formed basically the same way, right? A fairly regular future. Oh, you know what? My fault. I realize now that this is the imperfect. All right, so it is going to be, as you can imagine, malam, males, malet, malemus, maletus, and malent. All right, so again, the future formed as you would expect. Really just the present that's all right, and these are the perfect tenses kind of done out. And like with all perfect forms, it's the third principal part minus the I to give you the perfect stem plus the endings. And as I said, when we learned the perfect way back when, the good news is that all verbs form the perfect tense the same way, even irregular verbs. So they get that perfect stem, which is the third principal part minus the I, and they just add whatever endings you need. All right, so there are all your perfect tenses for each of the verbs. And duplicate slide, sorry about that. All right, now, one of the kind of special uses from the chapter is this idea of the negative command. So in other words, the regular command, like do something, right? The negative command, don't do something. And the basic way that Latin uses or forms the negative command is with the imperative of nolo, plus an infinitive. That's going to give us the don't, but we'll get to that. Let's take a look at regular imperatives to begin with. All right, so this is not negative imperatives. This is just regular old positive imperatives, just by way of review. All right, so the basic idea is your present active infinitive minus the RE. All right. Excuse me. So here's laboro, laborare. All right, that's my verb. Here's my present active infinitive, laborare. I take off the RE, and I'm left with labora, work. That's my imperative. Same thing down here, docere. Right, here's my infinitive docere. I take off the RE, and I'm left with doca for my imperative, teach. Right. Excuse me. All right, and this is just a screenshot from your textbook that kind of goes over that in a little more detail. And this is just a sort of real-world example. A college motto, ora et labora. Both of those are imperatives, first conjugation imperatives. So that are, or rare, laborare, minus the re, right? So pray and work. All right, so getting back to the negative command, all right, so the imperative nolo used with an infinitive to express a negative command. So the singular is noli, the plural is nolite, all right, and again, translated as don't. We're not going to say don't want to. So in other words, if I say noli correre, right, don't run, that of course is singular. If I say nolite correre, excuse me, don't run, to of course a group of people. All right, so if I say noli dicere, all right, don't speak, again to a singular, right, nolite dicere, don't speak, to a plural group. All right, and again, what you don't want to do is say don't want to run, don't want to speak, right? That doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially as an imperative, and that goes against the idiom that Latin uses, which of course is that the imperative of nolo, nola, is used as the negative imperative overall. So don't run, don't speak. Then we get a fun real-world example, or pseudo-real-world example. Apparently this is on a train platform in England, which I thought was kind of cool. But anyway, given the context, I'm sure you can figure out what noli fumare means. All right? I'll give you a second, but I think you probably get it. All right, no smoking, or a little more literally, not like it matters, don't smoke. All right, so there's noli, the imperative of nolo, and there's the infinitive of to smoke. Right, so don't smoke. All right, so some exercises, some practice, with the irregular verbs. So just use those slides from before, or use the forms in your textbook to help you with this. But he wants, right, that's going to just be wollt, that's one of the irregular forms. They prefer, malunt, all right, and I'll let you do the rest, but as I said, use those forms. It's a good way to practice. You do see a negative imperative number 6, so they can show up as well, so be careful of that. All right, so down here, 157, identify the form and use of each infinitive. Don't worry too much about the use. What you learn in this chapter is an objective infinitive. That's to be contrasted with a complementary infinitive, but the idea is they both come after verbs that can take an infinitive, whether want to, or dare to, or are able to, something like that. So really just identify the infinitive, all right, and it might be good practice to translate the sentences. You can do that in 158. All right, so just identify the infinitives and translate the sentences. All right, so number 1, the consul is accustomed to hearing these things. All right, number 2, it's not always good to desire many things. All right, and then we go from there. I'll leave you to do the rest. All right, let's take a look at this week's summatives. So you're translating sentences. Obviously, these sentences are going to use irregular verbs. Watch out for this form copy. We've talked about it. That's that present passive infinitive. All right, so we don't want, that's the nolumus, we don't want to be taken, there's that passive infinitive, by the enemy, ab hostibus. All right, and then number 2, the sad wife, all right, wants to come to Rome with her husband. The sad wife wants to come to Rome with her husband. All right, and I'll leave the rest for you. And then the writing summative, all right, translating sentences into Latin, English sentences into Latin. And again, you're going to be using these irregular verbs. All right, so do you prefer to be mortal? That, of course, is plural. So, ma vultis, ne. All right, ne, of course, makes it a yes, no question. All right, mortalem esse. All right, do you prefer to be mortal? And I'll leave the other 5 for you. All right, that's it for this week. As I said, a relatively quick chapter because the irregular verbs are new, but just some memorization. There's not a lot to understand about them. But with that said, please be in touch if you have any questions. And I'll be back next week. Thanks.